Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it is Tuesday. We do have some, oh gosh, where's my music? It's not even on? What the heck? That's weird. Well, anyways. How's that? No. There we go. There we go. All right. Let me start over. So, we do have some JOLTS numbers today. Tomorrow's Federal Reserve meeting, of course. And coming over here, looking at the DOM, there's a little bit of activity, but pretty narrow range so far. So, coming over to the charts. The Treasuries moving back up to the higher side of the range. Yeah, some interesting action yesterday, kind of came down, but ultimately fizzled out, didn't result in much. The S&P 500, I would say overall negative day yesterday, but I mean, it just closed the gap. It was kind of interesting. Somebody asked yesterday, like, what do you think about the S&P closing the gap? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe they could close the gap and then push higher. And nope, they closed the gap though. Oil kind of at the higher end of its range here. Gold and silver. Well, gold's still kind of hurting in gold, actually. But silver kind of going sideways. So that's curious. Copper taking a big hit overnight. That's a big hit. I didn't read anything in my Newsbox synopsis about that. That's a curious drop there. That's clearly something with trade deals happened there, right? Japanese yen still on the downside here. Ugh. I'm not like I really don't like the look of that trend. Really don't like the look of that, guys. Let's go back to the daily on the Japanese yen. Okay. We're plenty far away from like the lows of the beginning of the year. All right. And then Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin just kind of dragging along. Again, it's like you'll have a big run and then it does nothing. It really seems to me like there's not a lot of public interest in Bitcoin despite how high it goes, but they're still putting money into it. Big whales are still putting money into it. Or it's Tether. Same difference, essentially, as far as we're concerned, at least. Okay, so our plan for today, let's make sure the news squawk is on here first. We did just get, well, actually, let me refresh Financial Juice here. So we did just get the U.S. advanced goods trades balance negative 85 billion versus an expected negative 98 billion. So significantly better than expected. And that should boost the dollar a little bit. Actually, it looks like it already has, and the dollar is moving. But it's not really affecting our treasuries so much yet. We do have at 10 o'clock, so basically right when the stream ends, we have JOLTS, job openings, and CB consumer confidence. We also have a 7-year auction today, and I believe there is the Treasury refinancing, right? I don't see it on there anymore. But yesterday it was like right after the Treasury refinancing, or maybe that was yesterday. I don't know. Either way. Don't know if that's one's a factor today. So, you know what? I want something on my mind at the moment is Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle. So let's go over and check the overnight on the stocks. When I first saw it, I was just like, okay, who cares? But people on TikTok will not shut up about it. They will not shut up. Is it just that I liked the wrong video, and so now TikTok wants to show me every video about that? I don't know. It's really crazy. Uzi's like, oh god, yeah. So when I was over the weekend, and I was talking about it with my wife, and my stepson was listening, and he's like, nah, I think you guys are being rage baited. Well, maybe. But I get on TikTok yesterday, and they would not shut up about it. Oh my gosh. And like, man, some of these people need to get a life. Like, seriously. So many people are like, this is a litmus test for America. The fuck, guys? Get a grip. Get a grip. Ugly people hate pretty people. Is that what you think it is? Okay, but let's see how much has the stock actually done. American Eagle Outfitters, nicey. They did okay yesterday. Here was where they got the big jump. It was from $11 to $13, so that is about a 20% jump. But since then, it's given back about 50%. That seems like not a major factor. But if this reads through into higher sales, once they start showing higher sales, maybe it could pick up. I don't know. I don't know if that's enough, because, like, let's go and add somebody like, is Abercrombie a stock? Abercrombie and Fitch. Same percentage scale. And then who else would we add? What's them that the really, you know, old money one? You know, like the place if I want to get boat shoes and a polo. Ralph Lauren. Oops. I screwed. Oh, no, I did it correctly. Okay, well, but since that jump, yeah, interesting. So it was a one-time jump. And this would need sweet. So you know what I think it is? Like, have you noticed how the internet, when somebody begins to become like super famous, like there's like minor celebrities and stuff, but once it starts to become clear to people that this person is going to be like one of the top 10 celebrities that people talk about this year, everybody starts gearing themselves up for battle or something. Like, okay, now we got to determine where this person is going to play on the political spectrum, right? You saw it with Elon Musk. You saw it with, oh man, my mind is going blank here. They did it with Chris Pratt. They did it with Pedro, or they're doing it with Pedro Pascal, and now they're doing it with Sydney Sweeney, right? Or actually, I would say that they did it with Pedro Pascal. It's like at the beginning, it's like, okay, like how does this guy come down? And then they start to do things that make you realize how they really do swing politically. Like Pedro Pascal, I would say, is left-leaning somewhat. He hasn't been super outspoken, but he's definitely left-leaning. And, you know, and then eventually they come out. And if they don't come out in the direction that you want, you know, there's all this hair pulling, particularly on the left. Like, I think that the left cares more about celebrities than the right does, right? Because, like, here's the thing. I don't know anything about Sydney Sweeney, but I bet you she votes Democrat. I bet you. I would almost bet money on it that she votes Democrat. Am I wrong? Pedro Pascal is off the cliff left. Remember the Harris concert? Yeah. The left is definitely in more on celebrities. I mean, the thing is, I think that the left would, or sorry, the right would care about celebrities if there was like a right-wing Hollywood. Okay. I don't think that the right is immune to those kinds of biases and everything, but it's just that Hollywood itself has become so far left that Pretty in White is basically a nuclear bomb. Well, I mean, I don't know. Taylor Swift, she survived. She's pretty in white, right? If you're pretty and white but not woke, then they come for you. It's not like she isn't going to survive. Oh, totally. It's going to be like she'll come out and be like, "Oh, I didn't realize that people were going to take it that way," and apologize profusely. And even if I was right wing and I was Sydney Sweeney, I would do that. Because that's probably what's most advantageous for her career. Yeah, they'll apologize for the good genes part of the ad. Yeah. Well, but you know what's kind of funny about it to me, though, is that they were really trying to, should I say really trying? Okay, American Eagle really wishes that they were Abercrombie & Fitch and Ralph Lauren. That's really what I guarantee you at all of their meetings, their CEOs and stuff are you know, hyping everybody out to beat those competitors. Like, that is kind of the aesthetic, that is kind of like the segment of the market that they want to go for. And they're doing the commercial in that way because there used to be commercials on TV for Calvin Klein and Ralph Lauren that were kind of like that. That's why they're doing it. The problem is that whole aesthetic has been essentially associated by the woke people online as white supremacy, like supportive of white supremacy. And I don't think that the clothing companies realize this, and so now they've kind of like touched the third rail. They're like, whoa, wait, what? Because fat, ugly, neurodivergent people have to ruin everything. I feel like you're trying to bait me, Uzi. You're trying to bait me. Now he's trying to bait me in at work. I feel like it did work, yeah. Go find one person whining about that ad that then converses that they're not. Oh, it probably is neurodivergent people that are talking about it. Well, not all, but probably a higher, much higher likelihood of them being neurodivergent. Absolutely. Unpopular opinion. It's something that the neurodivergent community is going to take them a long time to finally accept the truth. But the reality is, neurodivergent people are easier to use as political pawns. It's just the way that it works. The worst, craziest political zealots tend to be people with Asperger's, the level 1 autism. It's true. And it's kind of weird to me. Well, I shouldn't say weird, but let's say interesting, that fat, ugly, and neurodivergent have kind of formed this alliance, political alliance, within the what is it called? Intersectionality lottery, right? And so, because I don't know, man. When it comes to weight, there's certainly a genetic component of it. We got medications that take care of that now. It's not available to everybody. Within 5 years, it will be. I honestly believe that 20, 30 years from now, that overweight people will be practically unheard of. Seriously. And but so there is a genetic component to it, but it is still ultimately something that most people can overcome with the right strategy and dedication and what is the word? Discipline, which is completely different from being neurodivergent, you know. I think that if anybody has the right to complain about being unfairly discriminated against in this society, it's the neurodivergent people. And I kind of feel like that the political paths and takes that they're taking kind of is like shooting themselves in the foot. You know? See, incel Punnett Square. I don't know. Nobody is genetically predisposed to be fat. People can be genetically predisposed to have compulsive behavior that manifests through eating excessively. I'm not... Well, I think that the research on this is still young. So I'm not sure I can say that we definitively know that or don't know that. We do have pretty good evidence that it does have to do with how much energy you're expending versus how much energy you're taking in. And that some people take too much, eat too much, and that they might be kind of genetically predisposed to have the behaviors that will cause them to eat too much. But there's another component, which is that some people have genetic issues that cause their bodies to react poorly to certain preservatives in our food. Okay. And that plays into the whole... I think that plays into the weight thing. It's not like those preservatives or whatever in and of themselves make you fat, but they will harm your body in other ways, and it's just kind of like the whole thing kind of makes it worse, if you will. This is like you have a certain preservative, and that increases inflammation in your body, and then you're not going to want to be as active, and it kind of snowballs like that. Is one of the things that I think is happening. Yeah, genetics create predisposition. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's something that you can overcome with the right strategy and discipline. I think, though, that for some people, like, it is very easy for me to lose weight. I can drop 10 pounds in a week. No joke. Whereas my wife can practically starve herself and she'll lose a pound. But like I said, Jenny Craig is gonna, or no, it's Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is gonna make a GLP-1 that's available to everybody, and then you won't see fat people anymore. I'm telling you. "30 years from now, they'll show kids in school, you know, pictures of fat people and like how much weight they lost on Ozempic and the skin hanging off of them, and they'll be like, there's no way. There's no way that ever happened." Watch the future, baby. You'll see more butt and stomach cancer, sorry, colon and stomach cancer patients. Why? Do you think that the GLPs increase cancer? Okay. I actually, well, I'm gonna go out on a limb on this one, because you've definitely got a point that every time we think that we have a miracle weight loss drug, we find out that it's not so much a miracle. Anybody that was around in the 90s and remember the whole thin fen thing, like that was a disaster. So we have every reason to be cautious. I think that it is pretty much inevitable that there will be side effects, negative side effects to long-term use. But I think that the GLPs are fundamentally different from the other kinds of drugs that we've tried to use for weight loss, in that your body naturally produces these GLPs. So, and it's just that some people don't produce as much of it as would be beneficial for their weight, right? So I don't think that the side effects that you're going to see from them are going to be as severe, but they're also going to be more interesting, if you will. Like, I don't think it's going to be as simple as like cancer. There's going to be more weird than that. If there are, you know, side effects from getting too much GLP-1, you know, and in that situation, I guess what I'm trying to say is this. I'm pretty confident that Ozempic is here to stay. That it's not going to be like 10 years down the line, oh, this causes cancer, and then they'll take it off the market. I don't think that that's going to happen. If they find that there's a side effect of it, because again, these are chemicals that your body naturally produces, it's just going to be, oh, we need to adjust the dose, is probably what will happen. Does that make sense? People who think the future is filled with magical technology and no consequences. But I mean, because in my mind, all they're doing is taking Ozempic basically turns you into me. That's what it does. Somebody who doesn't really have a huge appetite has to force themselves to eat a ton and can burn weight off very, very quickly. Which just sounds awful, yeah. And honestly, like, what is the downside of it? Oh, Cotiel says, thank you for sharing your valuable information. You know what? I appreciate it so much, because it's a thankless job sometimes, you know? Trading is hard no matter what. But I think this is good information to get out to everybody. Both because it's going to help you in trading, even though trading is probably an ill-fated adventure anyways. And because it has significant implications on society at large. But anyways, we're talking about Ozempic. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the negative side effect of Ozempic is that you do not enjoy things as much. So I do not sit down and eat something and go like, oh, this is so good, I'm enjoying myself. So I don't do that. I just want to get the food in me. You just don't savor things as much. You blew an account yesterday? Were you trading E-minis? Or NASDAQ? You were trading E-minis, weren't you? Yep. Yeah. Oh, yes. No. So here's what I would do. Here's my recommendation to you. Come down and trade micro 10-year treasuries. You have a large enough account, you can trade like 2 or 3 contracts and take like multiple, scale in and out. That can kind of help you mentally. So much smaller. Like an average move in the micro 10-year treasury is $10. Okay. And at $10, even if you're losing, that'll last you years. That'll last you years. And what most people do is they come in and they're way over leveraged and they trade ES and they blow $1,000 in a month. The spread is too stupid. Sometimes the spread in the micro 10-year is stupid. Right now, because it's the summer, I'm fine. It used to be, well, I mean, it's you can get 1 tick spread right now, but there's kind of a little bit of a 1 tick. You see there, it's 1 tick now, but it's summertime, so. There's no volume. It's a joke of an instrument that no one uses. But I mean, why? What makes it a joke of an instrument at that point? Like, for it to be a quote joke of an instrument, that would mean that there's like serious inefficiency in there that you can take advantage of. But the reality is that for the most part, it moves kind of like ZB. It moves opposite of ZB. And you're just taking smaller trades. Just don't rely on the order flow in it. Right. Look at the order flow in the larger instrument. Now, maybe you don't like that the commission basically ends up being equal to a tick. That is a problem. But, it moves more, right? If this moves like 4 ticks, this moves 10. So, works out to the same in the end. I don't know if I'd call it a loss leader. I'm not seeing like a mathematical, logical reason why you would do worse trading the 10-year, doing micro yield versus ZN. Here's my logical argument. If they are anti-correlated, as they should be, then there should be really no difference between trading this one and trading this one, except for like the costs, which again kind of come out to be the same because, this 1 tick, well, if you took the ZB and you divided it by 2 or 3, and then the commission that you're paying on ZB right now would be equal to about 1 tick. If there is a difference, then that's an inefficiency that you could potentially take advantage of. You're making it work by trading something with a 4-tick spread. I would be careful when the spread is 4 ticks, yes. Just use limit orders. And all that no volume might not get filled. Okay. So that's fair. That's a fair criticism. You know what, though? For a beginning retail trader, I think that that's a good thing for you. Like, having to think about where you can get filled and where you can't is a really, really good skill to have. To think about, okay, I don't necessarily want to trade here because they keep showing this 4-tick spread. Now come up here and think, well, okay, yeah, it's a 1-tick, but what if I'm trying to trade 20,000 contracts? I can't necessarily get filled here either. So it teaches you to think about the things that the really big fish have to think about. And you start to understand where they can execute and where they can't. How do you deal with spot spoofing on the DOM? So I find that overall, most of what retail traders will call spoofing is actually just high frequency trading algorithms saving spots in line and canceling the orders before they get executed. So that's the first thing. Every once in a while, you will see a large order that shows up on the DOM that is there to manipulate. That is objectively there to manipulate. Since they prosecuted it, it's much more rare, but it does still happen. Okay. And I talk about this in my video about spoofing in large orders. So you can go and watch that video. But I will give you the long and short of it is this. I am more interested in large orders and things like that when it's early on in the session, because that's indicative of somebody that's going to create a trend, kind of stirring the pot. The later in the session it is, the more that I view that action as suspicious and or manipulative. And if I see that kind of manipulation, my response is to not trade. So I'm kind of taking a more game theory perspective of this. If putting a spoof up there causes everybody to go, oh, something's going on, and trying to front run it or make some trade based off of it, then really all you're doing is rewarding that kind of behavior by putting more liquidity into the market. So what we should do, what would be the best thing for the retail traders to do in particular, is when we see that kind of behavior, step away from the market. And then they don't want to do that stuff anymore because it hurts them. Isn't really hard to trade the 2, 5, or even 10-year with only 1K, but a new trader shouldn't do that. Trading smaller tick sizes is fine, but trade something that's worth a darn on them. We're really coming into your real. I mean, I can't read minds, but I kind of feel like you're revealing your real problem with the micro treasury yield futures, which is they're just too small to make a difference, right? If you come in and you trade one contract on the micro 10-year, and you just absolutely do amazing that month, which is, you know, I've had months where we've traded the micro yield and done amazing. And what ends up happening? You just cover your costs, right? Yes. It's pretty hard to cover the costs of the data feed and the software trading micro treasury yield futures. So if you're trading micro treasury yield futures, it is, and it's only one contract, it is in the long run a net loser after costs. And once you size up, like one ZN contract, now you make enough on one contract that you can much more easily make up the costs. But if you're learning, again, the most important thing is to taking as little risk as possible to give you as long as possible to learn and actually give you a fighting chance. Yeah, or you could just sim trade. That's another thing too. The problem with the sim trading is that it's not 100% accurate to your fills, and there might not be the same kind of stakes mentally. I just don't think there's a... But I mean, when it comes to sim trade, at the same point, I don't know if there's much of a difference in like how long your account is going to last when it comes to sim trading versus the micro 10-year. Assuming that you're selective with your trades and everything, you'll probably come out break even or slightly profitable on micro treasury yield futures. I really think you watch my order flow video series. You understand the macroeconomics. You know, you're really paying attention to what's going on in the market and why different assets are moving the way that they are. And then coming in here with the idea that I'm looking for a large meta order to ride. I think that most people with some practice and effort can get to break even trading micro treasury yield futures. I think, and I don't think that that's the same thing in ZN. Because here's what happens is if I go and I do it in the micro treasury yield futures, and I take a trade and it's a bad trade, and then I lose 10 ticks on it and I'm out and I'm done, right? When you come over and you try and do those sorts of things in ZN, you've really got to hold your stops and things like that. And what'll happen in ZN is you'll catch 1 or 2 ticks slippage and it just screws everything up. Like the amount of slippage that you might get on a stop order over here, assuming you're doing things properly, it's never been an issue for me. I've always been able to get in and out with limit orders when I've traded micro treasury yield futures. But over here in ZN, there's been a number of strategies where it's been like, oh, I could make like 1 or 2 ticks, or, you know, just like the easy minimal thing. And it doesn't work because of the 1 tick of slippage that you can get. And it's like you leave a limit order in, then it just keeps going. And have I let losers? Well, but that's the other thing, though, is the thing that I like about the micros is, okay, average move can be like 10 ticks. But I can reasonably have my mental stop be 20 or 30 ticks. Like I'm able to stay in longer because it's appropriately sized to the account, you know? Because that's the thing over here. I would like, if I was trading 10-year treasuries, I would like my average winner to be 6 to 8 ticks. And my experience, my numbers has been 3 to 4. See what I mean? Like, you're just not able to hold them long enough without really taking a lot of risk for some reason. Better get comfortable with tight stops and risk management. Yeah. Well, so anytime that I try to have a tight stop in ZN, it don't work. I don't think that I've ever had one. I can only think of 2 or 3 situations where I took a much larger loss in the micros than I wanted to, I guess you could say. And they were all situations that were like, you know, something big was happening in the market and you kind of have to give it a lot of room anyways, sort of a thing. When I'm talking about the slippage, I'm thinking about like, you know, I had a trade in ES and I had a 4-tick stop and it gets triggered and then it actually ends up getting executed 40 ticks higher. Good grief, right? That's like what I'm talking about. And I don't think I've ever I have taken large losses, but I can't think of a situation where I really took a lot of slippage. It was always more like, I should have put the order out here. It didn't work out, you know? But I haven't had many, in fact, I can't really think of any time where it was like, I had the order out there, I really thought I was going to get filled, and I didn't, and then I lost like 30 ticks or something, you know? I've watched you lose more in the micros. The largest loss I've ever taken on the micros is $50, though. I think. I don't think I've... No. I took a swing trade once where I lost 100. I took a swing trade once where I lost 100. At least on one side of it. Still, I can't deny the performance. When I moved over to micro treasury yield futures, I did better. I did better. It went from kind of treading water all of the time, just if you take out commissions and everything else like that. In ZN, it was a lot of treading water and every once in a while a pretty big loss, right? And when I started doing micro treasury yield futures, I net made money. Not net made money. Before commissions, I was making money. I was making money before commissions. And then I had one period where I took a bad loss. And that period where I took a bad loss wasn't like one day and I screwed up and then I didn't want to trade it anymore, which is what would often happen to me in ZN. It took a whole month of bad trading, right? On what side of the fence did you take more trades? Okay, so I think what you're saying is maybe the reason you started doing better was because you became more selective about the trades. That there's probably some truth to that. Because the other thing has been that since I started trading micros, when I take the sim trades in ZN, those have been amazing. But I would say, like, I don't know. I'm not sure I completely understand the question because I have more overall trades in my trading career in ZN. when I started trading micros, I started taking less trades per day. But I had already started taking less trades per day before that happened. I don't know if I have enough data of being selective on CN and being selective on micro 10-year to show the difference. Maybe. Yeah, being selective is a good strategy. You know what, though? I don't think of it so much as being selective anymore. Now I view it as I take what's given to me, and I've just realized that the situations where I actually have an edge are just not many. Is really what that comes down to. Like, having a shortened session, only having 90 minutes to do this, it has definitely like killed my desire to take a lot of discretionary trades, because I know that the ones that really work well for me are ones where I take the trade in like the first 15 minutes and then I'm able to hold it for 3 hours, right? Those are the best trades for me. And if I only have 90 minutes, then that's not going to work, right? But so I've been more selective because of that, right? But ultimately, I think it just comes down to like, you have to have a real edge. And when you start taking a lot of trades, in order to take a lot of trades, it really has to be more of a technical sort of a thing, you know? And so that's kind of where the difference comes in, is if I sit down and I say, okay, like, what is the piece of information that tells me that there's going to be a huge imbalance in flows that I know, and it's not based on, you know, just the technical data that I'm getting, right? And once you really limit yourself into that framework, it turns out you just don't take very many trades, and especially not in the summer. It kind of turns into your best opportunities are between January and March, and then between like well, let's not say the end of August, let's say September to November. And then the rest of the time is kind of like meh. So, I don't know. Now, we could come in and we could try taking... So if we're going to have a shortened session and we want to increase the number of trades that we take for, I guess, I don't know, the stream's sake, I guess, we could try working on some more market maker-ish type strategies. By the way, this sell coming through here is a little bit more than I was expecting today, but it's not really showing me much change in cumulative delta. So it looks like it's kind of more on the short end of the... Well, that's actually really weird. I'm really only seeing the selling on the short end of the curve in ZF, but I'm actually seeing steepening. So we're moving down and we're steepening. That's unusual. Oh, can you roll over oil? Good call. Good call, my friend. How come that doesn't... That's weird. Okay, hold on a second. Anyways, but I still think, going back to what we were saying yesterday, I think that we want to focus more on the algorithmic side. And then maybe we can do a little bit more market maker kind of strategies. Update futures download list. Just try the NYMEX. I don't know why it's not giving me the... But I really think once I got something working out, I really think that it's going to be a robot that trades in the micro 10-year. I do. Like I just disagree with the statement that like it's a trash instrument that people shouldn't trade. I don't agree with that at all. I think that it's actually a really, really good instrument for beginners. I think that while there are liquidity programs that it's good enough for you to trade. And it limits the risk in your portfolio. As ultimately it's a good thing. You do want to eventually graduate, but I wouldn't poo-poo people trading the micro 10-year. I'm just not going to agree with you on that one. And I think I want to have my robot trade over here because I kind of think that there might be some situations where, you know, the robot can get a good limit order in there and get a fill where I couldn't and just take a little bit. I also on that point, it's also really disappointing to me that the liquidity in the 2 and the 30 is so bad. Especially the 2. Like the 2 used to be okay, but now it's really bad. But bad enough that I'm not sure that you can really realistically take, do like spread swing trades with it. So now if I started putting orders over there all the time, I think that what I've found is that you can actually kind of spur activity and kind of change it. So that's another thing I'd like to do. I don't know how I'm ever going to do this, but I really think that we could make we need data. We need data. It still comes back to data, but I really want to make a market making robot that brings in the spread in the micros. I would really, really like to do that. So let's see here. Did that robot take the full stop? It did. Ouch. Ouch, ouch. Oh, now that's interesting. Oh, that's really interesting, actually. Do you see that in the market order imbalance? So it took a trade. It got over 0.53. But then the flow, the short-term flow, flipped around really hard. But it never got to my threshold. So maybe that one is just kind of bad luck. But I do wonder if when we add random forests, if it would have taken that one. I think I've been looking at it, you know, like hidden Markov models. Hidden Markov models is another thing that we want to add in there. I think that the hidden Markov model would probably be better for the book, right? Like the imbalance in the order book and things like that. yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to try a couple of different things and try them out. But the reason I'm interested in random forests is because I want to be able to say, okay, like, what does the market order imbalance at, and what has been the recent like, what is the trajectory of the cumulative delta? Or I don't know. I'm not sure how I would factor in cumulative delta. Maybe I would just have it, here's overall buying and here's overall selling. And R squared is one that I would want in there. R squared and maybe adaptive CCI. Maybe adaptive CCI. I want to take a bunch of different features and pass them into a model and then have the model say, is this a high probability trade or not? And yeah, so that's why random forests. I did so much video watching. Well, I've been working hard at the day job. I really have, but I did have a little bit of time to watch video, and I watched a ton of videos on this stuff.
Order
So,
submitted.
I feel like I understand the algorithms a little bit better, and I actually have some confidence that I can, like, instead of you know, bring it, because one of the things that's kind of held me back is you put in a framework of some sort that gives you different models, and compatibility with NinjaTrader is spotty. But if I just program it myself, then it's not a problem. So I'm hoping that we can integrate that in August. That we can add some machine learning to it in August. Oh yeah, and then I also want it to take into account some daily factors. So where we are in relation to the different moving averages, including like a 10 super smoother, just to be like the slope of it, just to be like, are we trending up or trending down? And how far into the contract we are, and how soon to expiration, and which day of the week it is and which day of the month it is. Those are all things that I want it to factor in as well. And then it'll take trades, I don't know. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to kind of take LLMs. I don't know if the LLMs are quite all there for me, but I think that OpenAI is making an announcement today. I don't know. So one of the issues with the LLM is the interface. So if I have an interface where I can talk to it just like I'm talking to you guys right now, then we might be able to make more use of the LLM. And I was thinking, I had an idea this morning, which was, well, you know, like I'm browsing the internet and finding all of this stuff. And how do I give the LLM access to that? And this whole time I've been thinking like it needs to be automated and all of this sort of stuff. But actually I'm thinking, why not? Why can't it be I'm the person that browses and I just make a browser extension that whenever I click the button, it snapshots that page and passes it to the LLM for analysis. So that's another thing I want to do here. Probably should have done a little bit more on the, oh gosh. A little bit more on the trading view code there. I kind of became bummed on it and was like, well, I don't know if this is going to work very well. But then, like, the more I looked into it, the more it was, no, it is doing it the way that I thought it would do it. I just don't like it as much today now that I have to actually do work.
So maybe it's just my subconscious, you know, trying to avoid work. Maybe that's why I completely forgot about even going into that today. But I think we should force ourselves to finish that and put that up and make that available for sale, because it could be really valuable on stocks, and it's a much larger audience. And I'm kind of starting to understand that shortened stream results in less traffic and revenue to the channel overall. So, you know, to have money to put into various research efforts, we're gonna probably have to rely more on selling the indicators and things like that. So. I guess there's this larger thing, which is that it's not like I've given up on making money from futures trading. I just don't care anymore. Does that make sense? Like it's one of the unintended side effects of really understanding what's going on is, well, maybe that gives you a better chance to do well. But you also realize how little it matters if you do. Maybe I had my ego rolled up in success in futures trading more than I realized. Because the motivation to trade and to try and make money from short-term trading is just not there anymore. I only want to take a trade when it's really, really obvious to me. Or it's like you'd have to be stupid not to take the trade knowing what you know, so. Well, guys, we talked about a lot of different things. Should I backtrack and talk about neurodivergent people more? You know, it's really interesting to me, some of the things that have been going on. So, like, what's with this internet, what's with this censoring the internet in the UK? Like, I've been, please no. You know what? I loaded up Reddit, and you know what the first thing that I saw was another post about Sydney Sweeney. No. So like, in Utah, we've got the whole thing where like the UK implemented something new, is my understanding. You know what? I haven't really had the time to really get into it, so I was kind of hoping that some of you guys from overseas would enlighten me. Ever since yeah. They made it official. And so now that I'm seeing all of these memes and stuff about like how you just can't access pornographic content in the UK anymore. And like they've been doing that in conservative states, like requiring you to verify your age and things like that. But for some reason, though, that's like at least the internet is portraying it as way worse in the UK. Because, well, like, honestly, when conservative states did it over here, maybe it's just because they're not experiencing it, but when conservative states did it over here, like, there was a lot of talk and chatter about before that happened, but then after it happened, you don't hear anybody talk about it. UK be arresting thousands of people. Oh, dude, it is crazy. It's just crazy over there. But I find this one interesting because it's like, I don't think it's good that the internet is being censored, but I do think that parts of the internet should be off limit to kids. I think, for instance, that setting the threshold at like 13 for when you can get a social media account was the wrong call. I don't think that you should be on Instagram until you're 18. Is what I've kind of started to realize. Like, maybe there could be a social media platform that's built for kids, but it would have to be different. It would have to have like different algorithms and stuff. And I think that the world is just starting to realize, like, okay, there's some really big negatives to the way we're doing things with the internet right now. And it kind of sucks. And it kind of doesn't seem right, like we were limiting the internet for some people in certain ways and things. But I think it's just kind of inevitable that at some point we're going to limit large parts of the internet to kids. Not when kids are being abused in mass. I'm not sure if you're referring to the scandals in the UK with the police and everything, or talking about kids being groomed online. There's a real issue of people knocking on your door if you do. Okay. Nobody talks about why they cater so hard to hell. I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, though. You know?
Okay. You're not thinking what I'm thinking. Explain. Are you saying that they want socialist revolution and so they're importing people that they think are more likely to do the dirty deeds to make that socialist revolution happen? Oh, no. The immigration strategy is simply a matter of cloning growth rates, future tax revenue, threats to social services, yep. And being able to import a voting bloc. Yep.
Block by.
But the EU is all but implementing blasphemy. Yeah, it is. You're right. As if they don't, those people will, yeah. Well, I don't know. It's important to realize that current trends don't necessarily extend out into infinity. So you might see some changes in things over there. But I think, so I wanted to take this a different way. Can I try and take this a different way? Let me back up a little bit here when it comes to communism. In my opinion, communism is like completely misunderstanding where the issues in society are. So basically, what happens is you go to work somewhere and you don't like the pay that you're getting or the deal. You feel like you're getting the raw deal. And so what are you concerned about primarily? You're concerned primarily about wages. And that's basically how Marxism came to be. Karl Marx was really upset. It's all about how workers don't get paid for what they're actually contributing to the business. That's what he thinks. And so his solution was, well, the people should own the business. And then that turned into Bolshevism, which was like the state owns them, basically. Because in communism, they weren't so explicit about how the workers would own that. Perhaps you could say you just have worker co-ops. Like you can have employee-owned business in the United States, right? And they would just like to see it where all businesses are employee-owned businesses, perhaps. Okay. That's not where the problem is. The problem is you have supply and demand. You have people that want or need things, and you have people that are producing that good. And how do you get that good to where it needs to go? And how much of that good do you produce? And how do you know how much you need to produce and things of that nature? And you know this information about how much you can potentially build that particular good, or how much you can scale up that particular good, that only you in that business know, and nobody else knows that. And how does that information get transferred to other people? Well, it's not to your benefit to let other people know that information. And what the market does is it provides a place where it is to your benefit to transmit that information to everybody else, because you can come in and trade off of that information, and then that information gets reflected to everybody else as you make a profit. So when it comes to us here in the market, one of the issues that you'll see that I always kind of are like, hold on a second, when people say it, even though I know it's extremely unpopular, is when people talk about things, insider trading on things that are actually public information. Because the reality of the situation is that the market does not exist so that you can, have your try at fame and fortune through becoming a successful futures trader, yada, yada, yada. They just give you access to the market because it kind of helps them, and why the heck not? Okay? The market is there so that people that know what's going on and have capital have the liquidity to trade. That's why the market exists, period. And the reason that capitalism has been so successful is because the market is an effective mechanism at transmitting that information. And things like how much money workers make or if they're fairly compensated kind of ends up being incidental to whether or not the economy is actually like a successful first world economy. Which is to say, because I think that Marxists have this idea that, well, the reason that the West is so, why there's so much wealth in the West is because they exploit workers. No, it has nothing to do with that. How much workers are exploited is a completely separate issue. So we can have markets that are effective at transmitting information and still pay people well. Maybe we could do some things, make some rule changes, and do some study to see what are some ways that might improve the economy for people at the lower rungs, right? But you have to have a market. The market is kind of the one thing there to begin with that makes any of this even possible. So the reason that I was thinking about that was because you were talking about China. China seems to demonstrate this really well. That okay, they had these communist ideas. What they did was they came in and said, actually, we are going to have a free market. So people can own businesses and they can trade on an exchange. And that was all that it took, even though China is still like firmly communist in like every other respect. So China actually ends up becoming, because of that, a really interesting edge case to study. Because now we get to see all of these other ways in which communism is damaging, potentially, right? Like this real estate bubble that they've created, because it's like the state has so much of an impact on what gets invested in and everything, and it creates a bubble. Yeah. It's relevant to it's very relevant to our future. Because, see, the communists, they think that the reason communism doesn't work is because there's limited resources. If there was abundant resources where everybody was able to have as much of whatever the resource was that they wanted, then communism would work. That's what they think. It's wrong. Why? Because you have to have a market. The issue is not that we don't have enough stuff. The issue is that we don't have a good way to get the stuff from where it's made to where it needs to go, and to know how much of the stuff to make and all of these sorts of things. So, when we're coming up on artificial general intelligence, it's the same thing. Okay, cool. You go into this world where labor is no longer an issue. That doesn't mean that we go to communism. Communism will still not work. Why? Because you still need resources to manufacture artificial intelligence chips. You still need resources to mine and the different minerals and all of this sort of stuff. And how are you going to transmit that information about how much of that mineral that we need, or that there's not enough of it and we need to make more, or there's too much of it and so we don't need to put as much into that and we can put more into some other thing? That's what a market does. So artificial general intelligence will not result in the elimination of the market. It might lead to a market dominated by artificial general intelligence, but it won't get rid of the market. There has to be that mechanism to transmit that information. So it's the classic case of, we always try to use the tools from the last conflict for the next conflict, right? The last conflict was communism versus capitalism. And so now when we're coming into AI, we think, okay, now it comes back to capitalism versus communism, and maybe AGI flips things in favor of socialism. No, it doesn't. No, the things that we're going to have to do in society to deal with artificial general intelligence are going to be completely different. Completely different. If AIs replace us and there is just complete free labor for everything, or let's not say free labor, but cheap labor, because you just pay the AI to do it, I don't know what happens. It's so complex. I don't have the tools to see what it's going to be. But I can tell you that it's not going to be the market going away. So, and I guess that doesn't really transfer over into what we were talking about before that. It was just kind of a segue. I guess the bigger picture is, I think that you're going to see that societies are going to have to resort to, different kinds of systems. It's not going to mean that capitalism goes away, but they're going to have different kinds of systems. And I think that one of the ones that you're going to see is limiting access on the internet to children. I also think that another one that you're going to have to see is regulation of artificial intelligence. Because what's going to happen is it's going to get to a point where everybody has their AI companion, and they prefer to talk to their AI companion rather than other people. And we're going to have to create new social systems that incorporate the AIs into them. Isn't that wild to think about? It's a completely different world. We don't have anything to compare it to. And to think that it is anything even remotely similar to things like capitalism versus socialism is just short-sighted. I can only hope that it also means that some of the issues that you guys are seeing in Europe end up becoming non-factors, let's say. But we'll see. We'll see. I certainly wouldn't want to move to Europe right now. Imagine Zoom calls, but the AI does the video part, or even better, you, the caller, will call through / inhabit our home AI humanoid bots. Yeah. So the big limiting factor right now in AI is that they are not autonomous. Although they seem to be working towards that. So like now we have AIs that understand the nuance of conversation enough to know when to talk and when not to talk. But that still only works or makes sense when you're sitting down and having a direct conversation with the AI, right? So how do we move to a situation where the AI is always on and there with you, and it just knows when are the best times to interject? Right? Autonomous. They can go and do their own thing and fulfill goals using discretion without you having to directly prompt them to do it. And I would argue that this is the thing, like to have artificial general intelligence, they have to be autonomous. Because it's like the whole thing is like, you know, can the AI do a task as good as a human? Yada, 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 yada. Well, one of the tasks that the humans can do is they're autonomous, like a butler. You can say, okay, you do this, this, and this, but then it goes off on its own, perpetually doing that thing without you ever having to intervene. AIs can't do that because they're not autonomous. They require prompts to keep them going. Tell you what, we sure shot out the top there, didn't we? Oh, man. Oh, yes, I forgot that we're staying here for jolts. So really interesting. The buy signal that the robot got worked really well. It's sad that it didn't get the sell here. This is that's a situation where if I had the threshold a little higher, well, I don't know. A little higher probably wouldn't have taken the first long, but that's where I think that a random forest might help. Is that the random forest will allow it to say, okay, well, we only have a little bit of market order imbalance, but we also have X, Y, and Z, and so that makes it a pretty good probability setup. So adds that little bit of fuzziness, really helps the strategy. But we're back above 111. And they stopped through it. That's another thing I should have noticed. I should have seen that coming, actually. I should have seen that coming, that if they turned around, that they would probably blow through 111 even. Oh, well. I guess I should say this is a little bit more trend than I was expecting for this session, wasn't it? Oh, there's a 9K iceberg bid at 0.5. My, oh my. It also bounced off of the seller cost basis to the tick again. You can believe that. Do you think it is an experienced trader that it is realistic to make 2 points a day trading ES? Man, I think probably not. So I think that if you're a retail discretionary trader, that you probably have a higher chance of making 10 to 20 points a day on ES than you do consistently pulling out 2 points a day. Basically, that's a profit target that's so small that you're basically just in the noise. And so what can you do as a retail trader to have such a strong edge to get your 2 ticks that it will stand out from the noise? That's really, really hard. So there are like market making strategies out there, and they're basically making like 1 tick thousands of times, right? But part of how they're doing that is they're trading at every price. They're managing an inventory. And so that's how they're able to do that. If you're a retail trader and you have to be all in, all out, right? So basically you're saying, is there a situation where I can enter in with a buy order, get 2 ticks, and then exit with a sell order. There's too much noise. There might be a way to do it with an HFT. There might be some HFT situation where there's momentum and you have a really, really solid chance of getting the 2 ticks and it's fast enough to get it. Then maybe you could do that. Here comes the jolts. Okay, jolts slightly lower than expected, 7.437 versus the expected 7.5, which sounds about right to me. I did think that we would be, you know, a little bit lackluster again on it. I feel like that the treasuries were already kind of bid going into that. Consumer confidence was higher than expected, 97.2 versus 96. Not seeing much of a reaction. I do need to get going. I mean, on average, let's say 40 points per month. Sometimes you get 10, sometimes you lose. Nah, I mean, so if you're discretionary in your trading news, you might be able to trade ES and make a certain average amount per day. But I think, you know, now that I kind of understand what you're saying here, I still kind of think that you're barking up the wrong tree, because what you're doing is you're saying, I want to trade for a living. I think I could live on X amount per day. So if I make 2 points on the S&P 500 every day, then that would be enough for me to live on, right? That's probably what you're doing. And I think you're barking up the wrong path, essentially. Barking up the wrong path. You just take what you can get from the markets, and you can't really like rely on a certain amount. You're going to have to go in and dig and dig and dig and find a strategy, find an edge. And who can say how much money that edge will actually make? And those edges tend to be pretty inconsistent too. You know, what are you going to do when you're out on a losing month, right? So like if your idea is, well, I want to make this my income, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Okay. But I got to get going, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Stay X.